Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another round of Mind Your Puckin' Business with your host, Jeffrey Krensman.
Thank you, Dougie Sticks. Thank you. Coming to you, as always, from the beautiful studios of Undefeated Media here in Bergen County, New Jersey. This is the Mind Your Puckin' Business podcast, brought to you by our good friends at the Bamboozle Project, DraftKings, and Raycon. We thank them all for their sponsorship. We encourage you to go check out the Bamboozle Project, www.thebamboozleproject.com. Use promo code MYPB. Magical four letters will save you 25%, not just on all the MYPB gear that is on there, but also anything across the Bamboozle Project website.
True.
You can save yourself 25% your total order on everything using that promo code MYPB. This is episode 121, Ciento Viente Uno, for those following on the Spanish dial. I tell you, the words, as we've gone up in episode numbers, man, saying the Spanish translation has only gotten harder.
Yeah.
It used to be so easy. And now, I look at this thing and I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure I said it right. Ciento Viente Uno. So if you're utilizing the SAP feature on today's broadcast, we welcome you to the show and thank you for that. You can send us your questions at any time to mypbshow@gmail.com, or you can go the much more popular route these days to get in touch with us, and that is on our Instagram page at Mind Your Puckin' Business. We appreciate all the questions that you guys send us. We do try to respond to them all and also respond to them all in a timely manner. And with hockey season approaching in 6 weeks preseason, I'm sure those questions will even become a little bit more in frequency, so we will up our game as well to stay on top of it. You can listen to the show on a variety of different platforms. You can watch the video feed on YouTube. You can listen to it conveniently also on Spotify and iTunes. Stream it in your car, through your phone, whatever device you use. You can listen to us and you can find us. So I want to start here. We're going to start with a hockey point that has nothing to do with the tri-state area, but I felt like it should be mentioned. The Buffalo Sabres is not a team here that we cover at all. You actually went to school in Buffalo.
Yeah, I went to a couple Sabres games. Yeah.
So you went to a couple Sabre games. I don't know if probably you don't know the name, but we'll try. Their play-by-play guy, Rick Jeanneret. I gotta make sure I pronounce it right. Jeanneret passed away last week at the age of 81. He was the play-by-play voice for the Sabres for 51 years, and there's a lot you don't really know, unfortunately. In this day and age, I was thinking about this driving into the studio today. Other teams' play-by-play announcers only if they get national TV coverage. Like Kenny Albert does Ranger games, but he also does, national stuff. So other people will know who Kenny Albert is. Rick Jeanneret never did a national game, but everyone knew who he was. He was that good at his craft. So that is, it's just something to mention. We mourn the passing. He had such memorable calls. The one that comes to mind for me actually is the May goal back in the playoffs in the 80s. They beat the Bruins and he started screaming Mayday, Mayday. Pat LaFontaine, who was actually, and it'll work well with our guests coming up because they cover hockey in the tri-state area. Pat LaFontaine played for the Sabres, majority of his career, but he also was an Islander as well as a Ranger. And he had his famous call every time Pat LaFontaine called La 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 LaFontaine. So we send our condolences up to Western New York because he was just a really an influential guy across the league. So turning the page to hockey for a couple minutes here, and then we'll shift to football a little bit later with both fast and furiously approaching. The Rangers last week, we put up a clip on Instagram and I got hit, and I see Chris is in the chat room, so I'm glad Chris is here for this. We got hit with all these people saying that, Lafreniere is not going to get re-signed. There's a reason why Lafreniere hasn't been signed yet, yada, yada, yada. It is, and you can put up, why don't we put the Rick Jean, and I don't want to pronounce his name again because I'm going to pronounce it wrong, but Chris has as point best in the game. He was the best play-by-play announcer in the game by a long shot. I don't even think it's close. And I don't mean that as any disrespect to Doc Emmerich or any of these other guys, but Rick Jeanneret was the best. But anyway, people were complaining to us left and right. Lafreniere has not been signed yet. There's a reason. Both sides here. Lafreniere came out last week. I guess he was approached at some off-season event. Doesn't even sound like it was in the New York area. And said, I'm not going anywhere. The deal is going to get worked out. Relax. The Rangers, who normally are tight-lipped on things. Like if you follow the Rangers, Chris Drury, James Dolan, you don't get any info. And that would even go with the Knicks. Like someone was telling me last week, I don't know if this is true, that Leon Rose, who's the president of the Knicks, hasn't done an actual media session or availability in 3 or 4 years, which is insanity because you're playing in one of the top markets too. But the Rangers have kind of, I think, silently put out some things that have said it's going to get done. You can expect this deal to get done at training camp. So if you're or right before training camp. So if you're one of these people that think that he's not going to get signed, you're going to get traction here because I don't think it's going to happen today. And I don't think it's going to happen later this week. We're in the dog days of summer here. But the beauty of hockey is that when you get to these dog days of summer and it's really quiet, the pace is going to pick up really soon and really quick. And we're all missing hockey. Like last night, and I'm embarrassed to say this, the MSG Network last night. So I shouldn't say this. The MSG Network last night was playing best of games from the previous year, right? It was a Monday night. There was nothing on TV. And they had on the game that the Rangers beat the Devils in December. The Rangers went down early 2-0. They came back and they won on a Filipino goal. I was watching the game last night, and in the first period, the Rangers were awful. And the Devils scored. It was either their first or second goal. Dawson Mercer scores a goal in front of Shesterkin. And Keandre Miller, I don't know where he was. Like it was just a defensive letdown. And I started screaming at the TV. So Jess goes to me, this isn't live, right? This game's from December. Yes, I get it. But the point is that we're missing hockey. I get it. So it's coming back. One other thing I want to bring up before we bring our guest in, another thing that we're getting a lot of comments on, and Chris is in the chat room, and again, he can chime in on this, is the line combinations. Any line combination, whether you're moving Kako up to the front line, if you think Blake Wheeler is going to play top line instead of second line, is Lafreniere coming off the third line, any line discussion is merely speculation. There is no data to support anything. It is all speculation. We can all say what we want, but we're not going off of anything that's been said by the team, anything that's been said by any players, anything that's been said by any players' agents, anything that's been said by any Ranger beat reporter. It is all speculation, right? So yesterday we had there was this whole argument on our Instagram page with a clip that went up yesterday. What was the clip about Lafreniere and Kako with Dan Rosen from NHL Network, NHL.com. And everyone is going crazy on these line combinations. And I went on there and I said, look, these are all speculations. No one knows where anyone's going to play. But you'll get a feel for that, and you may not get the answer in training camp because remember, with training camp, you're going to end up playing a lot of players that you're not going to see in the regular season. And a lot of times, if I remember last year as well, you're going to break training camp after you've played your 6 preseason games, the 2 with Boston, the 2 with the Islanders, and the 2 with the Devils, and you may still not know who the top line is going to be until you get closer to opening night in Buffalo on October 12th. So we shall see. Are you now for you? Yeah. Do you, our casual hockey fan here, do you find that you are missing hockey?
A little bit, but that wound is a little bandaged up by football season's on its way.
Football season.
So football season has tapered that pain.
We go here at MYPB from a summer where we don't cover baseball. Like it's just been my MO. And if we were to cover baseball, we could go on a complete rant about Brian Cashman right now. And I told Pat, I'm going to the Yankee game tonight for the first time in probably 4 years. Wow. My son wants to go for his birthday. We're going for $37 for 4 tickets. That's how bad things are in the Bronx. But we don't cover baseball here. It's just, I don't know enough about it. I used to. So we stay away from it. So in the summer months, we don't have a lot going on. Now, all of a sudden, it's like Christmas comes twice because we're going to get hockey back. We're going to get our weekly pick segment and NFL back. We have our NFL guests coming back. So we kind of get it all. It's all coming.
Yeah, it's all coming.
Christmas at MYPB is coming.
Christmas is coming. Get your winter hats.
Yes, get your winter hats.
Project.com.
Yes. We're going to start promoting those winter hats really soon. So why don't you pull up that question right before we get, because it's about what I said. Speculation is giving us life during the offseason. Do you think Laviolette is going to shake up the lines? Liz, I think that he has to do something in terms of shaking up the lines if stuff is not working. Anyone who got this job, and again, you and I kind of agree, Liz, from our conversations elsewhere about whether Laviolette was the right guy or not, But whatever coach was going to get the job has to be willing to change up the lines and not be married to certain things, because I think that was part of the problem with Gallant that management hated, is that we're just not shaking things up. And I'm sure that Laviolette had a meeting with Drury in the interviews, and Drury said to all the candidates, really, look, are you going to play the kids? Because I need someone here that's going to bring along these kids and develop them, in particular, number 24 and number 13. So we shall see. Too much focus. We'll pull up the last comment there, and then we'll go to our guest. Too much focus on the top 6, but the third line is no longer a shutdown line like years ago. Top 9 is a new top 6. So that is an interesting point, Chris. That is an interesting point. But here's my question for Chris, and Chris will know this. I like that. So you're saying you have 3 scoring lines, right? I get it. Top 9 is the top 6. But is that third line, so is 7, 8, and 9 of your top 9, are they going to get the same minutes that the top line should get? That's you can only play so many people, and these people need ice time to develop. So we shall see. So staying on the hockey theme, we're going to bring in a new guest here for us today, and we are excited to welcome them in. We'll put up their Instagram handle so you can follow their page as well. Certainly, as always, if they're on our show, we encourage you to follow them on their social media feeds, and that is at big_apple_hockey. We're going to bring in Mark Williams. How are you, Mark?
Hi, how's it going today, guys?
Good. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So great page. You know, we are obviously Ranger centric here. I'd probably say 95% of what we cover here is Rangers, but you do a lot of some of the other stuff. You do Islanders, which I think is really good. And it allows us here, as I like to say, we're kind of so far into the forest to see the trees. You kind of give us the opportunity to look at some other stuff. So we're going to talk some Islander stuff with you in a minute, but let's start with the Rangers. The Rangers obviously out in 7 games, an abysmal second half of that first round series, go out, fire Gerard Gallant, hire Peter Laviolette. Did you agree with those moves?
I agreed 100% with those moves because, unfortunately, look, I followed Gerard Gallant all the way back to when he was a Detroit Red Wing in NHL 93. So I always remember those days with Gerard Gallant. And I thought he did a good job of the first season, but you could plainly see that he does not make adjustments. And after those first 2 games, they won by a combined score of 10-2. And New Jersey wins in overtime in game 3. If you go and watch the highlights of game 4, NHL.com's got these condensed games. The Rangers got 1 shot from the perimeter on the power play, and then that was it. Game 5, the Rangers are down 3-0. They're about to go down 3-2 in the series, and they're outshot 20-2 in game 5. This was not a guy that had the pulse on the team and had the team really firing on all cylinders. And a lot of people, that was like the Vogue pick for the Cup last year, because the Rangers were looking great going into it. But instead, they end up going out in 7 to Jersey to Akira Schmid. Really?
Yes. And, you know, the Gallant thing is interesting. It's a great point, is that every stop that he's had this where the first year they peak and then the trajectory goes down every year that he stays. It was like that in Vegas and Florida. So it's almost like these other teams are catching up to him as the seasons go by. So if you're going to hire Gerard Gallant, and I think he certainly deserves another opportunity in the NHL, you're probably going to get your best season out of him in the first season you have him. All right. We have gotten, speaking of the Ranger playoffs, Artemi Panarin disappeared, or I don't know if he disappeared, or maybe we could say that he didn't show up, whatever you want to say. We have gotten so much hate on our Instagram pages over the last 2 months that the Rangers need to trade Panarin. Enough is enough, enough, enough. My argument has always been this. Artemi Panarin last year, I believe he had 92 points. If you get rid of Artemi Panarin because you don't like his playoff production, you've got to replace 92 points in the regular season. If you don't do that, you're not going to win as many games, and you may not make the playoffs because of how tight the Eastern Conference is. What do you think the Rangers need to do, if anything, with Artemi Panarin?
I think the best solution is just to wait, because I've compared him a lot to a different New York athlete, although it's not one of your sports, the forte that you were saying before.
Can I guess where we're going?
Go ahead.
A-Rod?
You were 100% right. And A-Rod was basically a failure. He had all these great numbers that he put up in New York. It doesn't matter if you hit 50 home runs as a right-handed hitter in old Yankee Stadium, which not a lot of people ever did. But in this particular case, you wait a little bit, 2009 comes around, and you can make an argument for A-Rod as the World Series MVP. Him, Johnny Damon, and but it ends up going to Hideki Matsui anyway. Going with this, I'm trying to think of some other New York athletes that you just had to kind of wait and see on. I mean, Patrick Ewing was always great. That's not just it. And it's guys that they just got to step up once and then they're immortal forever. I mean, Eli Manning did it twice.
If I remember correctly, now back in 2009, which is the postseason you're talking about, A-Rod, I actually had a ticket plan. So, I mean, I like the Yankees, but I just don't follow them as much anymore. I don't have the time. But if I remember correctly, now, I mean, he torched that offseason, that postseason. That first round versus Minnesota, I want to say it was game 2. I was out on a Friday night. He had a tying home run in the 9th inning. But I remember, am I right that he was meeting with like a sports psychologist? That was the whole thing to try and get him over the mental hump, if you will. Like, I don't know if that's something the Rangers need to do with Panarin. I don't know, but it's amazing.
I just want to say I do worry about the extremities that's going on with him, where it's the recent news, which you don't know whether or not it's true or not, or if it's just propaganda of him firing off a gun in Russia and getting fined. I worry about stuff like that, but it's hard to just tell somebody, you got to be in New York all the time for your own safety. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw, speaking of him, ironically, yesterday there was a picture that came out of him on a phone, on a cell phone, and he's using a flip phone. And it's like, dude, you make $11.5 million a year and you're using a flip phone. Like, what is going on here? You can afford the iPhone 12 or 14 or whatever we're up to. All right, we're going to bring in, I see one of your co-hosts joined, so we'll bring him in as well, and that is Anthony LaRocco. How are you, Anthony? Welcome to the MYPB.
I am good. Thanks for having me. I blame my tardiness on my fellow co-host here, not sending me any sort of link to get in when he started. But,
it's all good.
Yeah.
We can still be friends. All right, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Awesome.
So we're gonna stay on the Rangers for now, and we'll give this one to you,
Sure.
Anthony. We've done this show now. We're starting our 4th season this month, and I have always used the term with the New York Rangers window of opportunity, that they are in this quote window of opportunity to win a cup, right? And then the window closes, and then it opens up in a couple years. How many years left do you think with the Rangers really have a legitimate shot with their roster to win the cup?
So honestly, similar to the Islanders, I feel with Ilya Sorokin. I think as long as the Rangers have Igor Shesterkin playing at a top level, that they have a decent amount of time here to win a cup. Because they're 2 of the best elite goalies in the league. So as long as Shesterkin is healthy and obviously playing top of his game, I think the Rangers have a shot every year. My concern would be with some of the old guys like Artemi Panarin. Not that he's old, but eventually you got to assume that his production may drop over the next couple of years. So I mean, obviously Adam Fox is going to be an anchor there for a long time, so that's great. Mika Zibanejad still producing at a good clip. The key is if guys like Brendan Hoffman can come in, Perot, who they just drafted in a couple of years, if they can come in and really take to the NHL game and produce, I think that will extend the Rangers window. But right now, I see that their window is probably within the next 3 years. That would be my best educated guess on how I feel when they can still hoist the cup.
That's where I am as well. Mark, what about you? How many years do you think left on the window?
I think it depends on how long Igor Shesterkin could hold it open. Is after all, Henrik Lundqvist did that for years with them. They were not as, let's just say the 2010 team was not the 2015 team, especially when you go back and see what that roster was. I think that they do have some premier players and pieces in place that can really help. But there just isn't that feeling this year like it was last year. Last year felt like they were going to take the next step. And we just had Jim Dowd on the show who talked about how difficult it is for teams to take that next step sometimes. But I think the Rangers can do it. And I would say within the span of the next 3 years. But like we were saying, you were saying before, I should say, they got to invest in those kids. They got to play those kids.
Yeah, because if they don't play the kids, the window's only getting shorter for sure. All right, let's shift gears. We don't cover a lot of Islanders here, but I think it's good to have you guys. You can give us some perspective on them. Let me give you. So we had Dan Rosen from the NHL.com on a couple weeks ago, and Dan kind of agreed with what I said, which was this: if you have a goalie that is in the Vezina discussion, you have a chance to make a run, right? I mean, goaltending wins Stanley Cups. We know this. Obviously, Sorokin is up there, and maybe he doesn't get as much PR as he should because he's playing in the same city as Shesterkin. But the Islanders, Horvat, they make the Horvat move last year. It appeared to me on the outside, and again, you guys know the Islanders better than I do, that he didn't really adjust right away. I mean, I didn't see him lighting it up. What is a realistic, if you're an Islander fan going into the 2023-2024 season, Mark, what is the realistic expectation for them?
I think they're kind of looking at being a wild card team. I think it's tough to crack that top three right now in the Metro because I don't see the Rangers falling back so far that they're going to be a wild card. If the Islanders have offense and build an offense for this team, because they're going to keep the puck out of the net. And we were just talking about this last week or 2 weeks ago when the Penguins acquired Erik Karlsson. They're never going to keep the puck out of the net. It's not what they're going to be able to do. You can't be a successful team and always be taking the puck out of your net. The Islanders are going to be able to do that because Sorokin is that good. And I'm just going to turn the rest over to Anthony because he can rush about Sorokin as well.
Yeah, so before we go to you, Anthony, we'll go the bottom one, make me respect there's a comment that just came in, make me respect the New York Islanders because I totally underrate them. Chris, who's one of our good listeners and he understands hockey better than anyone. I've often told him he should have his own podcast. He's high on the Islanders and he thinks they're going to do well. What do you think, Al?
So, again, it goes back to Ilya Sorokin. When you have a goalie like him in the net, the expectation is that, he could take you to the promised land. So I think the Islanders' belief in their own room, like any other team, is win the cup. Outside that, fans, etc., I think realistic expectation is to make the playoffs as the baseline. And I think he can get them there. And for me, here's the kicker. You mentioned Bo Horvat, so that's a great point. Bo Horvat came in to the Islanders. Obviously, it's a culture shock getting traded, moving across to a different country on the opposite coast, and fitting in, it's tough. But before Matt Barzal got hurt, if you guys remember, Mark, we talked about it, Barzal and Horvat clicked right away. They got off to a real strong start, and then boom, Barzal hurts his knee, and then from there, that really affected Horvat's game. So, and now that, and actually Horvat, I don't know who we did an interview with because Lou doesn't really allow any Islanders to talk to anybody. But a couple of weeks ago, someone interviewed Horvat, and he talked about how, having a full season here now and having a full camp, and, his family's over here now and they have a house. They're really settled in. I think that's going to go a long way. So now that he's going to be comfortable, if Barzal and Horvat can gel and really put up good offensive numbers combined with, Sorokin and net, now you're talking about an Islander team that can finish higher than a wild card spot because now you got like, dynamic offense from a top duo, and then you have Sorokin in that, and then of course you have the other pieces like Adam Pelech and Brock Nelson, who's seemingly only getting better with age. So yeah, I think playoff team is a baseline expectation. And then if everything goes right, I think they can, move up to, let's say, third in the Metro. But that part all depends upon their offense, and how many goals they could score.
Yeah, the Islanders and Rangers are both hurt by the fact that they play in this division. This division is so good. I mean, we're talking about the Rangers and Islanders, and they're both good teams. And I don't think you'd be surprised if any of them went on a deep run because of their goaltending. And you're not even talking about the Devils and the Hurricanes. I mean, and they're all in the same division. And you have Pittsburgh that now got Erik Karlsson, Norris Trophy winner. Now, granted, he's older, and the goaltending there is a question, but they're still going to be they're going to be around, right? I mean, they're older. You have the Caps. I mean, as long as Ovechkin is still scoring goals, I'm always going to worry about them. I mean, I was down in Washington, saw them play the Rangers back in February, and they lit the Rangers up. I mean, I know the Caps can beat the Rangers. I mean, so they're still good. Columbus is going to be a little bit improved as well. They have Mike Babcock behind the bench now. He knows what he's doing. It's a brutal division. I mean, I think this is the worst division in hockey. that you would want to be in right now if you were a fan. All right, so let's ask you guys the $1 million question here that everyone's going to want to know. It's a hard question to answer in August, but I'm going to ask it. What is your early Eastern Conference champion and your Western Conference champion and your Stanley Cup champion for this year? We will start with you, Al.
So Anthony, sorry.
Anthony,
And my initials are AL Al, so that's fair enough.
It comes up on our screen as Al. That's fine.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So that's,
you know what? We should cue up the song "You Can Call Me Al" from
yeah, that's a good one.
Go ahead. What's your Stanley Cup pick?
You know what? We talked about it on our show. I still really like the Carolina Hurricanes. I think the Hurricanes are going to come out of the East. They still have the same goaltending they had last year, but it's good enough. Obviously, got them to a conference final, so as a baseline, that doesn't seem like to be an issue. Slavin and Pesci are outstanding defenders. Svechnikov is going to be back and healthy, which not having him in the playoffs really hurt them. They struggled to score goals. They added Michael Bunting, who is probably a 20 to 25 goal guy, even away from the Maple Leafs roster. Dmitry Orlov, one of the smoothest skating, offensive defensemen that there is, puck moving. They added him. So I really like the makeup of the roster. They still have Sebastian Aho. They brought back Jordan Stahl, who is a monster in the defensive zone, penalty kill. And lastly, that key piece, Rod Brind'Amour. I mean, he makes them go. His suffocating style of hockey, it works for him. So for me, I think the Hurricanes are going to come out of the East. The West is a little harder. I go back and forth. You have Vegas, obviously, who just won the Stanley Cup, but didn't really tinker with their roster too much. Could they get back if? But my trepidation with them is I think Aiden Hill might have just been on a little magical run there. I really don't know how good of he is of a goaltender to do that again. So again, the West is hard, but you know what? I'm gonna go with the Oilers. I know they have a lot of question marks on the back end, in their goaltending. But like what you kind of saw in Washington, eventually a star player is just going to break his team through and carry him there. Ovechkin finally got over the hump. McKinnon in Colorado did it after a couple of years of falling short. Draisaitl and McDavid are just too good to keep on falling short. I think these two are determined, and you got to remember both of them have. I think one's got 2 years left on his deal, the other's got 3. I think the time is now in Edmonton. If they want to keep them, they're gonna have to win a cup, and I think these two are motivated. Nugent Hopkins, I don't see him having another 100-point season, but he's still a really good player. Evan Bouchard took major steps on the back end. He's still an RFA. They still have to re-sign him, but he's a key cog back there. And again, I know the defense overall and the goaltending with Skinner and Campbell is somewhat questionable, but Skinner had a real solid rookie year. Was a finalist for the Vezina Trophy. I just think this is the year they finally get there.
I like that pick. How about you, Mark?
I'm sorry, I can't help but smile because I think it's the definition of insanity what Anthony is saying right there. Because Edmonton is just not going to be able to do it. They never seem to be able to do it. How many times have we said over the last few years, do they have the defense and the goaltending? Connor McDavid is that good. He can get his team in there. But he puts up all these points, and they couldn't get past Vegas and what was Hill, a 4th string goalie at this point? And also Jonathan Marchessault wasn't even doing anything. He ends up exploding, and Vegas goes right past him. They never have enough goaltending and defense. And you got to wonder, are they going to put it together? That's where you end up starting to think with them. And then I say that, and one of my favorite punching bags is Pete DeBoer and the Dallas Stars. And I think that right now they would be my Western Conference team. I think they're going to be really good. Yeah, because in the first 2 years with Pete DeBoer, those teams are usually really good. So that's where I'm kind of leaning on with them. I look for a big year out of Jason Robertson, who is just absolutely budding as a star. And then the East is a little bit more murky. I've been getting a lot of heat from Ottawa Senator fans lately because they're like, well, this team should have been a playoff team, but they had injuries. Every team's got injuries. So they were 22nd in goals for. So I'm not going to make them the darling of the playoffs. The East is tricky. I think it's going to come out of the Metro. I'm just not convinced it's the New Jersey Devils. I think their goaltending is still a problem. They ended up having good goaltending from Akir Schmid versus the New York Rangers and versus the Carolina Hurricanes. They got lit up. And as Chris pointed out in the comments, 0-12 in conference finals games. The last time they won a conference finals game, they won the Stanley Cup. That was in 2006. Rod Brindamore was the captain of the team, not the coach.
You can pull that up, Doug.
So,
yeah, pull it up.
Yeah.
Good. We're pulling it up as you talk.
So I'm inclined to say because it's not going to be Pittsburgh either. And everybody is raving about this deal. I just wonder how Pittsburgh is going to keep the puck out of the net. The East is a total crapshoot. I don't know. If you're going to ask me and press me, I'll go Carolina Hurricanes. But I can't definitively say some of the teams that have been there that are challenging. Are the Maple Leafs with their new look? Is that going to be enough to do something? Is Boston falling off? Is there a team that we're just overlooking? Can Florida get healthy and take the next step? There's so many factors that go into this. But that's why if I'm pressed, I'm going to say the Carolina Hurricanes.
Okay, so we will look back 9 months from now and take a look at it. But we will have you guys both back before then through the season. We're always looking for hockey talk where we are on every week. So we appreciate you guys joining again. That is Big Apple. Put the handle back up there as well, so you guys can follow Big Apple Hockey. That is at @big_apple_hockey. Thank you, Anthony and Mark, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Good stuff. It's always fun, like I think in the summer to like project. It's impossible. It's hard, right? It's like I'm basically throwing a dart at a wall. And if it was me throwing a dart at a wall, like it's not even going to hit the target, like it's going to hit the thing. But it's basically a crapshoot, as he said. It's really going to be a very interesting year for the Metro division here, for sure.
Absolutely.
So
get excited.
Yes, it is coming. We will get to football in a minute, but just to remember, even if you're not going on vacation, summer is all about a vacation state of mind, whether I want to listen to my favorite band, which is the Dave Matthews Band, on repeat with my good friend Kurt from New Jersey, or I just need to retreat in my own head for a bit. I love creating my own summer soundtrack by popping on my Raycon wireless earbuds. There's so much going on all summer. Sometimes you need to stay upbeat, have music to pump you up before you see people, or on the opposite, Doug, stay calm with some guided meditation. Meditation. I love using my Raycons for tuning in various hockey podcasts while I'm catching up on work on my computer at home. And you can see I have a new computer today for the first time in 121 episodes. Let me tell you right now, Raycons are the best way to listen. Use their earbud tap functions to toggle between the customizable sound profiles, noise isolation, and awareness mode. And they have a 32-hour battery life, including 8 hours of playtime, so you can listen to what you want, when you want, for a really, really, really long time. They come with custom gel tips for the most comfortable in-ear fit. And the best part, they start at half the price of other premium audio brands, but they sound just as good, and they come with a 30-day happiness guarantee, so you really cannot lose. Create your own soundtrack with Raycon right now. MYPB listeners get 15% off their Raycon order at buyraycon.com/THPN. So the promo code there is THPN. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to save 15% on your Raycons.
Nice.
That's some good stuff.
Absolutely.
I feel like that whole market now, and we can see the logo up on the screen and the promo code up there. Like you go into like a grocery store now, half the people have wireless earbuds in.
Oh yeah,
right. I mean, it's like
shutting out the planet.
If the store makes an announcement like we need to clean up in aisle 6, no one would know because everyone has wireless earphones on. So I don't know what to tell you. So DraftKings, new customers, download the DraftKings Sports app and use that same promo code THPN.
Ooh.
Bet just $5 to score $150 in bonus bets instantly. I'm going to repeat that math because it is because you're like, no, he said it wrong, but I didn't. Bet $5 and score $150 instantly. That code on DraftKings Sportsbook to use is also THPN. Have a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. If you're in Massachusetts, call 1-800-327-5050 or visit the gambling helpline .ma.org. In New York, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY, or you can even text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700. And in West Virginia, you can call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net. All games regulated by West Virginia Lottery. Please play responsibly in partnership with Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races. Lastly, in Connecticut, help is available if you have a problem with gambling. You can call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 27 plus is the age required in most eligible states, but remember, age varies by jurisdiction. One boost is available per eligible game. Opt-in required. Max bet $50. So get your free money. And with
Free
football
money, baby.
with football season coming up,
Yes.
now is the time to get on it. I would
yeah.
think if you were DraftKings, I would think their most popular sport that they take wagering on has got to be football, right?
Gotta be.
I mean, certainly not hockey.
It's got to be.
It's not hockey.
Hockey's tough. Hockey's tough.
Hockey's a tough sport to bet on. I don't really like to bet on hockey, actually. I hate betting on my own teams in any sport, so I never will bet on the Rangers at all. Like, because I feel like if you lose, then it's like a double punch. You know, your team lost and you lost money. Although on the other flip side of it, you can get double the happiness.
Yeah.
But I don't do it. So NFL this weekend.
Yes.
I asked you before we went live today if you were going. Today is the Jets Giants game this year, the preseason game. I'm going to think has a little bit less appeal, only because they play in the regular season. Every 4 years they play. This is the year they play a Giants home game later on in the year. Are you going this weekend?
So it's up in the air right now. Possibly. Was it Friday the game is?
Saturday at 6.
Saturday at 6. It's a possibility. I feel like this year's the pinnacle of players not playing in preseason. Like in the past, they played like the first half. You know, now they're playing now they're not even playing. Maybe you get a snap out of them. Like these preseason games are not really appealing.
But if you're the Jets, right?
Yes.
Okay. Aaron Rodgers is a Jet.
Yeah.
He hasn't played a single snap this entire preseason, which I would have no problem with whatsoever.
Yeah.
What does it matter, right?
True.
Why are they even playing him a series on Saturday? You're just going to sit there and have your fingers crossed, like you're nervous when you see him step to the right, step to the left. If he gets tackled, he shouldn't need one series.
I think it's a marketing thing. I think they're because both New York teams are going to be there. So they can you can get a little preview maybe for both markets, but I mean it's not appealing to make that I don't know. I don't feel a very big draw to go. You know what I mean? I want to go, but it's not I really want to go.
Well, let me give you. So the Jets have all these expectations, right?
Yeah.
As they should. They have a really good roster. I'm going to tell you what the biggest problem the Jets have right now is that nobody's talking about. You ready?
Yeah.
Let me give you their first 8 games. Okay.
Yeah.
And then let's go through this.
Yeah.
Week 1, Monday night home opener against Buffalo.
That's going to be a great game.
Jets are underdog by 4. Now, these are all winnable games, but they're also extremely losable games too. The Jets are underdogs week 1. Week 2, they go at Dallas. They're probably slight underdogs there, as they should be, right? So now your first 2 games, you're an underdog. Week 3, you come home and you play the Patriots. Now, the Jets on paper are better than the Patriots, but the Patriots always beat the Jets. That's not an easy game either. Week 4, home versus the defending Stanley Cup. Week 4, home versus the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl champions. Week 5, which now has all this appeal because of Sean Payton Hackett nonsense, they go at Denver, who's going to be better.
That's going to be a good game.
Week 6, home against Philly. Week 7, they're on a bye. Week 8 at the Giants. And week 9, home versus Justin Herbert and the Chargers. Their first 8 games are awful. They are awful.
I mean,
How could you have a harder schedule than the Jets' first 8 games?
I think the timing of the Bills game is perfect for them. First game of the season, no one really knows what's going to happen, what to expect and see from Aaron Rodgers' new Jet team. So I think that's a good one for them to steal one from the Bills.
Okay, so but let me just lay this out for you. If I was an odds maker here, I think so. Week 1, the Jets home versus Buffalo. We know they're underdogs because that line is out.
Mm-hmm.
Week 2 at Dallas, they are going to be underdogs. Week 3 at home versus the Patriots, I would see the Jets as a slight favorite. Week 4 home versus Kansas City, underdog. Week 5 at Denver, probably an underdog.
Mm-hmm.
Week 6 versus the Eagles, underdog. The next game, well, the Week 7's bye. Week 8 at the Giants, probably an underdog. Week 9 at home versus Justin Herbert and the Chargers, probably a slight favorite. I mean, it's a brutal 8 games. It's awful.
I'm trying to pull up last year's.
Now it gets better, right? So
yeah.
so it's not, again, seasons are not just the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Week 10, they play the Raiders. Week 11, the Bills. Then you have 2 versus the Dolphins. Atlanta's not good. Houston's not good. The Commanders are not going to be that good, and the Browns are not that good. So it gets better.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're the Jets, man, you've got to really survive. Even if you went 500 and you went 4-4 coming out of the first 8 games, I think you'd be happy with that.
So we beat the Bills last year. You beat the Broncos last year. You beat Miami last year.
The Broncos are better. The Broncos have Sean Payton. And Russell Wilson cannot possibly be any worse than he was last year. As our executive producer over here is laughing in the corner. He cannot be any worse.
Scores here. Yeah, so I mean, and then some of these games are, close. And now you just added, you got the rookie of the year on his second season. You got one of the best cornerbacks. You got Aaron Rodgers.
I'm not saying they're not good, and I'm not saying they don't deserve hype or anything. Yeah. All I'm saying is their first 8 games, you could not script a worse beginning 8 games. If the Jets went 4-4, knowing how the second half is a lot better, you would take if they could go 4-4 and I don't think they're going to go 4-4, but if they could, you'd sign for that.
True.
Awful. Well, we'll see. So Saturday, you get your first glimpse at Aaron Rodgers, even though it will be quick, just one series. You can see him before he makes his debut on September 11th at home versus the Bills in the game we just talked about. That is it for us today. We thank Big Apple Hockey for joining us. Good stuff. Always good to get into some hockey discussion. We thank our sponsors, the Bamboozle Project. Use promo code MYPB. Save yourself 25% on their website. We thank DraftKings and Raycon as well. You can send your questions at any time to mypbshow@gmail.com, and you can also send them to us or comment on our stuff, as you guys like to do, at mindyourpuckinbusiness.com. Anything else from you, sir?
No, football's starting. NHL's on the way. It's the only thing that stinks is summer. It's coming. Like if you went outside today,
yes,
a little brisk today.
It is a little brisk.
Something, the air's starting to change, and I don't like that. That's when my birthday comes around is when the season starts.
And your birthday is
I don't like my birthday.
Your birthday's what, next Monday?
August 25th. So
it's this week. Yeah. This week, yeah. So we'll have to do a birthday special next week. Well,
right,
maybe the big wigs here at Undefeated Media can like spare bringing in a nice sheet cake for us.
Maybe
it would be nice.
Maybe.
Right?
Get myself a cake. Yeah,
there we go. Here's my birthday.
Happy birthday to me.
Here we go. That's it for us. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will talk to you next week.